AOT Wiki just posted the Crunchyroll interview that Isayama just recently did, and we're going to go over what was said. I was going to make this thread on Twitter, but I was like, I have too much to say, right? And I would rather not engage with the Twitter people, the D-writers and whatnot, right? So this first question, after the time skip and introduction of Marley, Eren disappears from the spotlight for some time. What was your intention in removing Eren from the narrative at that point in the story? Isayama says, it's actually something I always wanted to do as a storyteller. First, we have no information about the characters that we've familiarized ourselves with, and we switch to the perspective of the enemy, who we thought was the enemy, and start to explore their perspective. And then just around the time we start to familiarize ourselves with and sympathize with their point of view, we introduce the main characters as their enemies. How would I feel about it, and how would the audience be feeling about it, was kind of beyond my control, but it was always something that I wanted to do and intended to do. Now, this isn't controversial. This is normal. This is, yes, I agree. This is night and day. We know this, obviously, right? Obviously, it was supposed to be Attack on Titan, the Colossal Titan and whatnot, and obviously the direction of the story was always supposed to be, okay, now Attack on Eren. So this is nothing new. This isn't news. This is just, okay, we know this. Solidify it for us. And so the next question, what do you imagine Eren would have done if he never joined the Survey Corps? If he never would have succeeded with the tampered odium gear all those years ago, what kind of actions would he take? Now, the fact that this question is being asked just lets you know that people are curious about Eren's character, right? So no matter what fucking video or what weirdo on Twitter is saying that everyone knows Eren or whatever the fuck, it's false, right? Because even to this day, you have people asking questions that would characterize Eren, right? And so Isayama answers this question in a way that coincides with what we've seen in the AOT caste systems. But I'll get there after I read his response. He says, I think Eren would have had a rotten life. He would have had an unfulfilling life, to be honest. And being inside of Paradise, he probably would have continued to be oppressed and possibly just extinct without anything he could do about it. Or he might have lived without knowing that his end was coming soon. He might have just continued to live the 13-year limit. So this goes along with everything I said in my video about the caste systems. Eren wanted to be given this purpose, right? He needed this purpose. What we're talking about is Eren's character in a world where he fails. We see in the Lost Girls OVA that in a world where Eren isn't in the Survey Corps, he still wants to be free, right? He still wants to see the outside world because of Armin's book. But in a world where he isn't made this whole hero and he doesn't really find out what he found out. Editing Aaliyah here. What I'm basically trying to say is that Isayama wrote it, right? He wrote it so that Eren's first problem is with the walls. He feels like a caged bird, he feels fenced in, and that makes him feel like he's not free. What I'm trying to say is that just because he doesn't make it into the army doesn't mean that this feeling just goes away, right? Which is why he's miserable, right? But I disagree with the fact that Isayama says he might have just went extinct in Paradise. I think this is false. I don't think that's true at all. And for so many reasons, right? In a world where the Titans don't kick down the walls, right? Where Eren isn't even in the military at all. He still goes on a hot air balloon with Armin to go see the other side of the walls, right? Because he read the book. And so everything in this, I think, is correct, except for the fact that he says that Eren would have just passed away in Paradise. Like, no, he would have died trying to get out and trying to see the rest of the world, like is shown in the Lost Girls OVA. So what I think would make Isayama's answer correct here is if the questioner had asked, what would Eren be doing had he never read Armin's book? Then he would go extinct in Paradise because he doesn't know how big the world really is. Eren would have just been, I guess, this loser, this purposeless loser that we see in the AOT caste systems. He's bored. He wishes something would happen. He just has this hero desire, I guess you could say. But in a world where he isn't given this opportunity to be this hero. He's just this, it's literally caste systems. Isayama's answer was basically caste systems. And if you want more information on that, make sure you watch my video going over the entire caste systems, because there is some misconception with Eren's character in that. People kind of hyperfixate on the part where he says, well, if there's no threat to humanity, I might as well become one, or some shit like that, right? People overfixate on that, and in that video, I kind of just really break down what that means and what Eren's character kind of stands for, and I also go into this, what we're talking about right now, in a world where he isn't burdened with this hero role, in a world where he doesn't see the outside walls via the Survey Corps. We see that in Lost Girls. He still aims for that. He finds another way. But in a world where he has absolutely no options to be this hero, he still would have wanted for himself, like selfishly, to see the outside world. Because it's through the Survey Corps that he learns, you know, about Annie, about, oh shit, I have a lifespan, like my life is over 13 years after Shifter. He learns everything he knows about being a shifter through the experiments with the Survey Corps, with Hanji, etc., right? So he wouldn't really have known much if he didn't know anything, and he had really no way of finding out. There wouldn't be much he could do, but I don't think Eren, his character as we've been shown, I don't think he would have just laid down in Paradis and died without trying to figure anything out. Especially not with the Lost Girls OVA kind of showing us that he would fucking fight to see outside the walls. Regardless if he's a Titan, regardless if he was in the Survey Corps, he would try to see the outside world. He would have still been in the walls, and he would have still been oppressed, is what Isayama's saying. And it's like, that may be true because the forces are so much bigger than he, but if he's a Titan and he has the power to do something, regardless if he's in the army or not, I do think he would attempt something. He is kind of reckless, I guess is the word I'm looking for. He's reckless. And so with this power, without knowing any information about it, I think he would just assume that he's this kind of chosen one, this kind of godlike being, and he would try to leave the walls and try to maybe even destroy the walls without knowing anything, you know, to free everyone. He would probably go out there and try to kill every Titan. That's, knowing the character we know now, if Eren was not in the Survey Corps, it would not matter to him. He would sneak outside of the walls, and he would try himself, if he had to kill every last Titan. Right, this is assuming that Reiner and Annie still come in and, you know, knock the walls down and kill Carla. You know, this is hard. This is a hard question to ask. And this is even harder question to answer because, so it's like, it depends. Everything depends. Everything is contingent on whether Eren's mom dies or not, whether Eren reads the Armin book or not, whether he finds out that there's a bigger world out there or not. Everything is contingent on that. And in a situation where Eren never reads the book, in a situation where his mom doesn't die, in a situation where he's not a soldier, you know, and all of those things are contingent on, all of those things are what basically convinces him to be a soldier, right? But in a situation where none of those three things happens, then yeah, I believe Isayama here that Eren would just live a miserable life and he'd be like, I'm missing something here. Like, I feel like there's more to my life than this. He would just have this empty hole in his heart that he doesn't even know how to fulfill or whatever. Especially since he has this sort of hero complex and he likes people depending on him and he likes for people to need his help. I think it's very obvious, those things. It's contingent on a lot of things. Like in this situation where Eren isn't accepted by the army, has he read this book? Has he, you know, did his mom die? Because in those situations, there's no way Eren, freaking Jaeger, after watching his mom die and, you know, learning that there's a bigger world out there, there's no way he would just sit in Paradis and rot. And I think as a fandom, you know, ending Defender or not, we can all come together and at least admit that there is no way Eren would just sit in Paradis and rot after his mom was killed by the walls or after he found out that there was a bigger, vast world outside. Next question, what language do you imagine the characters communicating in? Isayama says, I think they would be speaking in what would be considered a universal language. A good comparison in real life would be English, but it has to do with history of oppression and colonization. The strongest language would become the universal language in that world. I think this is a very good, honest answer, and it shows that Isayama knows a lot about his history. This guy, he's woke. He's woke. So it's like, I don't know, everything... He gives me so many reasons to believe he's, like, so intelligent and that me and him are on the same page, right? Like, because every media, right? Every movie, every show that he likes, I freaking like it too. I like it too. Everything he thinks is good, I also think is good. Everything he thinks is bad, I also think is bad. And so I refuse to believe that his own ending to his own series is the one thing we just don't see eye to eye with. He knows that motherfucker is bad. He knows. And he had to make it bad intentionally because he's so smart. There's no way he would slip up unless it's like what the new take is that I've been coping with. He just went online and he did the research to see what the majority of fans would like, and he just went with that. That's what I believe in now at this point. He just went with something he knew was shitty, but something he knew that the majority of the fandom wanted. Their favorite characters still being alive, Eren loving Mikasa all along, and the works, right? 139, basically. Next question. At the beginning of Volume 5, the side story, Isle's Notebook, the Titan Isle encounters is able to speak, which is uncommon for most Titans. Because of that, did the Titan have royal blood, or what was special about it? Isayama says, when I received that question, I thought that would have been a great plot. After the matter, it's a great idea. And the person asked him, bro, that wasn't really specific, didn't really answer my question. Will we find out in the future? And Isayama's like, so in the beginning, right, like, oh my god, like, he's beating around the bush, right? In the beginning, I was just starting to develop more ideas for the Titans. There are normal Titans, and there are abnormal Titans. I considered normal Titans to be kind of programmed beings, and some of them would contain a glitch, almost like a defective item in a factory. That's as far as I thought about that Titan when I was writing the story. So, I'm not really mad at that. I think that's fine. I'm not mad at that at all, right? Like, here's a Titan with a glitch like Rod Reese, right? He's weird. He can't stand up. He's just odd. Here's a Titan with a glitch, Connie's mom. Here's a Titan with a glitch. I think that's perfectly fine. I am not mad at that at all. But if I wanted to be like a Strickler, I'd be like, oh my god, like, this is something kind of big. This is something kind of huge, right? Because Zeke can talk. Pete can talk. And so the fact that you have this non-shifter Titan talking, it's just kind of odd, in my opinion. It's like I would expect that would have a bigger answer than, oh, it's just his glitch, his own personal glitch. But this person isn't really asking the important questions. Why the fuck did he call Isles Ymir's people? Like, was he old enough to know the original Ymir? Is he talking about freckled Ymir? Which Ymir is he talking about? Is he talking about freckled Ymir because Isles kind of looks like freckled Ymir? Or is he saying, oh, you're Ymir's people, I'm praising you because he knew the original? I don't know. It's not explained. That would have been a better question in my opinion. The next question, as you concluded the series, are there any aspects of the story you wish you could have changed? Now, pay attention. As you concluded the series, that means the end. That means the end of the story. Are there things you wish you could change? You wish you could have changed? Isayama says, so I have a lot, actually. Whenever I look back at the story that I wrote, I have so many things that I wish I could have done differently. It's almost hard to name exactly what that was. Every time I look back on my stories, I'm always thinking about, remorse and regret is what I feel looking back at my own stories. So I think this just goes to show that the backlash was felt. It was heard and it was felt. And Isayama was not confident in the ending that he gave us. Why wouldn't he be confident in that ending? Just think for like 1 second by yourself. Why would Isayama not be confident in the story that he gave us? Okay, I'm gonna answer why. He wasn't confident with what he put out because he gave an ending that did not conclude the themes he introduced in the third act of the show. Okay? The first act of the show was this whole, oh shit, building Eren up, right? Building him up to be the hero of Paradis against the Titan. The second part of the show, oh shit, we need to overthrow the government. We need to overthrow the government so we could learn about what it is that's being hidden from us. And then that act ends at the ocean. The third act is the Marley arc and the subsequent rumbling. And in this arc, we'll say half of the second arc, honestly, we get all these themes of like surpassing your father, of family. You know, Levi had Kenny as his father figure, and Kenny was just as strong as Levi, but he stood for the wrong thing. He stood for selfishness and me, and where did it end him up? Dead with no family, nothing, right? Levi's like, why did you leave me? Kenny's like, I wasn't a father. But like, what if he had been, right? What if he decided to raise Levi? You know what I mean? That could have changed the course of the whole story. You know, maybe there wouldn't have even been a humanity's strongest soldier. Maybe there wouldn't have been a Survey Corps Levi. That would have changed the course of the story. And then it juxtaposes this story with Historia's. Her father comes back into her life. Oh yeah, like, you're going to do this for me. You're going to do X, Y, and Z. And in return, I'll give you this affection that you've been missing out on your entire life. And she's like, oop, nope. She kills him, surpassing the father. And then it's just this bottleneck of this entire theme of surpassing the father that we see with Eren and Grisha and his father, right? This chain of like, you know, we're suffering because of our worldly circumstances placed upon us by these racist individuals over something that happened 2,000 years ago that we weren't even here to witness. And so Isayama realized that he doesn't provide closure for that theme at all. And so it's just rubbish. It's just good moments in the series in a vacuum instead of having its own conclusion as a theme. Those, you know, vacuumed stories, Historia's story with Reese, Levi's story with Kenny, those stories in a vacuum, great, they're cool. But what do they say about the overall narrative? What do they say in the end of the narrative? They don't play a part at all in the end of the narrative. Maybe they do for Levi, because he acts selflessly, and he is rewarded then with his life, I guess you could say, right? But what does it say for Historia's arc? She does the same thing that her mom does, right? And so Isayama, if we're to assume that he's competent and he's so smart and he's the greatest of all time, he realized, I'm abandoning so many of these themes, so many of these plot threads to make the greater majority happy because they want the Mikasa figure. They want to see Eren and Mikasa. They want to make the Eren Mika fan art. They want their favorite Avengers of anime to live long, happy lives. That is what they care about. The majority of fans care about that. I imagine he was on Twitter looking at retweets and quotes and everything to see what's the most popular thing, you know? And he's even admitted to doing shit like that. He's climbing all over Reddit, climbing all over Twitter. He said he keeps his nose in the internet because he said that is where the most honest opinions of his work are. And I can't tell you if that's true or false because there's so many brain dead people on here just sucking his, you know, anything he puts out. And so the next one. How have you personally changed since volume 1? Isayama says, I had a great deal of trouble communicating with other people when I started the manga, but and that was actually one of the drives writing this story, but now I've come older, maybe more mature. I have become quite different from that time. So Isayama's basically saying he was in his own little bubble, which is the best way to be when you're writing a story. Isayama was isolated from other people's influence, right, before this story got big. Volume 1, he had his story start, finish, and end in mind. He knew exactly where the story was going, and he knew everything about it. The story gets big and popular. Oh shit, I can't do that. That's unfair. I can't kill everybody that these fans wanted. Because in a prior interview, Isayama said that everyone introduced in Volume 1 was supposed to die. Everybody introduced in Volume 1 was supposed to die. That's what Isayama said. That's not what happened at all. Like, not even close. In fact, the exact opposite happened. And it's because, the editor and I have been talking about this scene and that scene, and we went with his vision for it. Isayama allowed everyone to write the story as it got more popular, except himself. He allowed everyone to play a part in the series becoming what it is, instead of sticking to his own ideas, sticking to his own message. That is why anytime anybody defending the ending is going to tell you what the message of the story is, it's going to be 100 different things, because it's not Isayama's story anymore. It's Araki's. It's Kawakubo's. It's mine. It's yours. It's everyone's story now. Because he didn't stay true to his own vision. He was going through Reddit and Quora and Twitter, looking at people's ideas, letting it affect his work. He said he took the constructive criticism and he applied it. He let Kaji Yuki's performance influence him on what Eren's character actually was, and he shifted the story to convince the readers, right? So it's not the same story. The story he was writing, Volume 1, isn't the same story that concludes at Volume 34. I would argue that at Volume 16, it stopped being Isayama's story. Started being everybody else's. Let's continue. Do you foresee future spin-offs? He says he has no plans right now. Can we expect additional backstories for Hanji or the original members of Squad Levi? Now that is fire. That's gas. Like, imagine a series, a spin-off series, and it's just like Squad Levi doing expeditions. That would be fire. I would watch that so quick. That would be so good. I would love that. I would love that. Like, we need this Petra and Levi dynamic, this Aluo and Levi dynamic. We need all of that. That would be so iconic, and I hope he actually does do something like that. He says, regarding Levi, I actually have something in mind. But at the same time, I don't know if I will be able to write that or not. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, give us more than that. Like, what are you talking about? And it's like, everything he says is so vague, Isayama. It gets kind of annoying. I'm asking you questions to have more answers, not more questions. Anyway, he asked, can I ask what you mean by that? And Isayama says, for example, I have imagined what the story of Levi would be in my mind, but at the same time, whether I am able to output it, that's a whole other story, because writing a manga is a really difficult task for me. Understandable. You know, some wise person once said something that I'm going to make up right now, is that we don't choose our jobs choose us. Right? Isayama was working retail before he pitched Attack on Titan. And they picked him up. And so there you go. There you have it. Like, the mangaka life chose him. And so it's like, at this point, like, I'm sure you're rich now. But why not? You know, if you don't plan on retconning anything further, if you don't plan on sullying somebody's character, if you don't plan on Wreck-It Ralph 2ing Levi, then fine, give it to us. Why not? You'll sell more merch, you'll sell more figures, you'll get more rich, right? I just thought about, like, what if Good Smile released an Isabel and Farland Android? I would buy that immediately. Anyway, the next question was there a reason you strayed away from any direct romance themes within the Attack on Titan story? Isayama says, number 1, it was embarrassing to me to write stories about love between characters. The other reason is that if I continued to go into those kinds of tangent stories, we might lose focus of the immediate main plot of the story. So I wasn't really motivated to go in that direction. Then tell me, how does the entire story end on that leg? If you at no point intended to go in that direction, how does the story end as, oh shit, I've always loved Mikasa selfishly and don't want her to find anyone else, and oh my god, like, Mikasa, oh, Ymir just wanted love from the king. We are terribly aware of the fact that you don't know anything about love. Okay, you're embarrassed to write a healthy love story, but you have enough gall in your brain and gut to write a story where a rape victim falls in love with her predator person captor? You are less embarrassed to write that? You are less embarrassed to write Grisha getting his dick cut off? You're less embarrassed to write the former fake king or whatever with a poop machine up his butt feeding it to his mouth? You're less embarrassed to write that? Bro, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I'm so confused. That doesn't make any sense. Like, the gall. That doesn't make any sense. And that is kind of what made me really mad about this interview. That is what made me decide to make a video, because that is disgusting. What do you mean you're embarrassed to write a genuine love? You know what I mean? What do you mean you're embarrassed to write in the direction, a tangent, a quote tangent, developing Mikasa and Eren being in love? If that's how you want it portrayed, you had to write that. That's not a tangent. That's essential to the conclusion of your story. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Developing Aramika is a tangent? Is a side tangent? That isn't related to the... What? How? What the fuck? Like, I can't, man. Like, I tried to stray away from side tangents such as love and romance. How is that a tangent? How is that a side tangent if the entire leg your story lands on is I'm in love with Mikasa and everything I did was to land Mikasa at this choice because I love her so much? We should have seen and felt Eren's love throughout the series, and it should have been absolutely clear that it wasn't familial. It should have been written clearly that this is not familial love. When Eren asks, what am I to you? Do you care so much about me because I saved you or because we're family? He should have written Eren to say, do you care so much about me because I saved you or because you have feelings for me? And then it's appropriate to fill in the fucking blanks. Oh, he's asking her this because he has feelings for her. But no, it's a tangent. It's a side tangent. What about the side tangent that is Arahisu? That's a literal, with the way the series ends, every Arahisu scene is an actual side tangent. And that's what got these Aramikas gassed up on Twitter. Because the way the series ends makes Arahisu a side tangent. Completely unimportant for the final, for the finale. Completely unimportant. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't need to be in the manga at all with the way the series ends. Doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And I'll never get it, I guess. They ask, you're a fan of horror movies like It Follows and Hereditary. Could we possibly expect a horror story? He says no. He says, I could make the scary story scarier, but, I'm not gonna do another manga. He said maybe he'd do a feature film. Who cares? You are a notable Game of Thrones fan. What did you think of the new House of the Dragon series? Did you have a favorite character? He said he watched it and he really enjoyed it. And he compared it to the first season. It was well done. He likes Aemon Targaryen. Cool. And he said his face looks good and he's a good actor. Nice. Who cares? And then this person asking questions, they wanted blood. They wanted fire. I could tell. They were like, and the finale? He's like, I was watching it with my wife. He deflects, basically. He deflects. Was the finale good is what this person's asking. Not, what were you doing during the finale? Nobody cares. What did you think of the finale? Oh, my wife was scared. My wife hates gore. Speak up, bitch. Oh my God, stay. Okay, fine. I don't know. It's always vague. It's always beating around the bush. All of his answers are usually like that, so I'm not surprised. And we're not gonna cry over spilled strawberry milk over here, so final question. Finally, to what extent did you draw from historical events when writing AOT? Did it influence you as a creator? He says, I think there's a hint of truth. It makes the story very believable. So when I came up with the design for the worldview, for example, the worldview map is flipped. Cool. People would be able to understand the context without explaining everything. True, yes. For example, the Eldian and Marleyans. They're really similar to what the Germanic people and Romans went through 2,000 years ago. That's kind of the unsaid rules that I keep in my stories. Right. So, let's talk. This is the unspoken nuance in the story. This is the unspoken nuance. People will say, oh, you didn't get the story because you don't understand Japanese nuance. No. The nuance you're supposed to understand here is the oppression of the Jews in Romanis. Is that how you say it? I don't know. That's the nuance here you're supposed to pick up on. And so it's quite literally one of those stories where it's like, this is what would have happened if the Jews had their own weapon to stand up to their own genocide. And if that genocide wasn't just pushed on them by the Germans, but if it was pushed by the entire world. And so within that context, you want me to be pro-alliance? With those unspoken rules that you just mentioned, I'm supposed to be pro-alliance? The entire world's supposed to, the entire world. There's no world alliance to try and help Paradis, right? There's just an alliance to genocide them. There's no alliance to help them. They're just there to genocide them. And they're going to. And here's people from Paradis who are like, that's wrong. Genociding us is wrong. But we can't sit here and let someone genocide you. So we're choosing our own genocide. Because you guys have more people over there. It's honestly ill. It's disgusting. And for him to come out right and say it forefront, hey, this is the nuance you're supposed to be picking up on. He said it's so you can more easily understand what's happening without everything having to be explained. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for saying that. So now I'm looking at this story completely within the context of the Holocaust. 100%. You said this is the unsaid rule or whatever that we're supposed to pick up on. This is the nuance then. So I am completely looking at this story through that context now. And it is disgusting. The Tybers are despicable and deplorable with this, with this statement he put out. Ooh, yeah, now there's Jews in the government conspiring, right? It's too much, guys. This interview probably is just like salt in my wounds. I don't care. Isayama can say whatever he wants at this point. I'm just kind of like, okay, dude. Okay. All right. Sure. Like tomorrow he could say Erwin, Erwin freaking, I don't even know. Something that retcons Erwin. I don't know, man. I don't know. He could say anything and I'll be like, all right. Yep. Got it, Isayama. Okay. No problem. I get it. Yep. Go on. Because I'm just at that point where I'm like, all right, bro. Let the story rest. Please let it go to bed now. Please let it go to sleep. Anyways, that is it from me. I'm kind of thinking about doing a video where I prove that Eren was retconned, but I don't know if I want to wait or not or what. I think I want to wait until the official panel of him at New York City is released. So, that's out and stuff. And so I'm not just the only source of information. I think I do want to go ahead and make that video that Eren, his character, was retconned, because I feel like there's enough evidence out now to officially state that. As far as thoughts on AoE goes, it could happen, it could not. I'm not bitching about it. I'm not fronting. I don't care. Whatever. I'm just moving on at this point. Moving on.